the KPD has assigned SROs to the schools. Those officers have always been well trained and well supervised and assisted in a positive and professional manner. With that, it became increasingly apparent that the time was right to have a more in-depth discussion about the role of law enforcement in schools. Our goal again is to reevaluate the MOA after discussions with KCS leaders, school board members, community members, and other stakeholders. We are fortunate to have a tremendous relationship with Chief Gus Padusis and the Knox County Schools Security Division. In fact, I had the good fortune to be supervised for Chief Padusis for many years, and I really value his leadership and his expertise. We've always had a great working relationship with Knox County Schools, and we will continue to provide our full support for schools regardless of the outcome of these discussions. A couple of points I want to make before I take questions. KPD is currently responsible for staffing 14 schools total, 7 high schools, 7 middle schools. That accounts for about 16% of the schools in the Knox County school system. The KPD currently accounts for about 10% of the armed security in schools. While under the leadership of Chief Gus Padusis, Knox County School Security Division has expanded from a force of about 30 to over 100 available armed security officers. KPD SROs are fully trained, sworn law enforcement officers. They are police officers working within the patrol division assigned to a specific school as a special assignment. The aim of this all is to revisit and reevaluate that MOA. SRO training is proceeding through the summer. We've actually had 2 folks, one that is out and another SRO, 2 SROs, excuse me, one that is out due to injury and another one who is going to be going to a different assignment in our criminal investigations division. We posted for those positions, and we are going to train those officers over the summer and give them the training they need to be SROs. We're not putting any of that training on hold. The annual conferences and required training that our SROs need to be successful in that assignment that is still scheduled and going to go on. All right. With that, I will take questions. Anybody?
Good morning, first off, and thanks.
And I have hearing aids, so I apologize.
No, it's fine. Good morning, and thanks for having us. I think the first question that we probably all have is, does any of this have any correlation to what we saw with Anthony Thompson Jr.? I mean, at this point in time, we know why police were called out there, but you just have to ask that question.
And I understand that, and that's the elephant in the room. And I would be, it does. It plays a part in the questions and the timing of everything coming together. I applaud the School Board of Education, Mr. Watson and Ms. Satterfield, for bringing this up as a resolution, as a time to discuss this and bring the community into these discussions about what they want as far as safety and security in their schools. So yes, I'm sure that played a part, along with a number of other things. Sure.
Speaking of Ebony Satterfield, she said last night that safety in schools might look different from school to school. Some communities might feel threatened by police officers, whereas others might welcome the presence of a uniformed officer. Is that something you're considering as you look to rework this MOA?
You know, all the options are on the table right now. That's why I applaud being invited to those discussions. I think it's important that the school board or the Board of Education is intent on involving the community and seeing what they want. We have a standard operating procedure for our school resource officers. It's on our public information page. This is what our school resource officers are responsible for. This is their duties and responsibilities. And if we can work within that, that's great. And there maybe they don't want in some schools our school resource officers. We're fine. That's why we want to work together with the Board of Education and the community. And I think that it's great that we're having those meetings, and I appreciate being involved in those meetings.
Do you believe that it's still important to have fully certified, trained police officers in the school?
Do I believe that? I think there's a lot of things that play a part in that. I think that when in 1999, and when we first started this, of course, as a result of Columbine, we changed exactly the way we respond to active shooters. A lot changed. And in 1999, when we assigned our school resource officers to those schools, we did not get extra positions to account for those. That came out of our patrol officers. We have never been allotted extra positions to cover those. Our forces have dwindled. under Chief Gus Padusis, when he became chief of School Security Division, he started with 30 armed officers. He now has 105 positions. That's a tremendous increase. And our numbers have continued to dwindle. So we really have to look at, and that's where the conversation started with Mayor Kincannon early on in her tenure. We were looking at, our resources within the police department and what could we possibly move around? Where do we need to have our people to be most effective in serving the community and the children of the community?
I know at the beginning, or once all of this stuff was happening at Austin East or near Austin East, parents originally said they wanted more law enforcement presence in and around schools. And I know that your department did oblige to that. So this kind of seems like it's backtracking.
It does, and I think that's where it's very important, and I appreciate Mr. Watson and Ms. Satterfield bringing that resolution, because we need to know what the community wants and what the school board wants, and we want to work with them, whether it is supplying officers in the schools or being immediately outside the schools and ready to respond. We respond very quickly. We've had school shootings, and we've been able to respond with our beat officers very quickly to that. So we're confident we can respond quickly even if we don't have a KPD officer assigned to a school, if that becomes the case. Again, we don't have any preconceived notions at this point. We just want to reevaluate that MOA.
You mentioned dwindling numbers with staffing. Was staffing a specific consideration in the factor of actually pulling out of that MOA?
Staffing is always a consideration, yes, because again, as we looked at the school security officers who are well trained, we train with them. They are armed security, and as they have increased their numbers and been available to cover more schools, that's a huge factor for us to look at. If we were the only armed security in that school, we absolutely would not consider this. Especially if the school needed us there.
And then you mentioned training. How do you expect training to go this summer with the understanding that school resource officers' job roles might actually change over the course of the summer?
I think that we don't know, and I want those officers to be trained regardless. Those are great skills to have. How to deal with juveniles, how to work within the juvenile system, and I appreciate those skills. So we're not going to lose anything, even if if the new MOA, the agreed on MOA is that we have less officers or we have no officers. We still appreciate those skills that we can gain from that training.
Chief, is it fair to say that at this point of time you just don't know what the needs are specifically? What your role is?
That probably, yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think it's fair to say that we want to hear from the community. And if I could take this brief moment, I've received a lot of correspondence from the community about, I want officers in schools. I really urge the community to come to these meetings so that they exercise that voice that they are being given. So whenever the school board sets this up, the Board of Education sets this up, please participate, because we need to know what you want.
The school board has...
I'm sorry, she was...
Will any anti-bias training be included?
Wow, I can't answer that right now. I think it is, because that's a huge thing of all that we do. We're going through all the officers in our own, and school resource officers are police officers first, so they have to go through the 40 hours of in-service every year. This year we are doing cultural competency training for every officer, so they will get that. And it's been huge. I've sat through that class because I want to show how important it is. I've sat through it 5 times. Next week will be the 6th time. I gain something new every time. So I know at least that. I think that these conferences they go to does incorporate that. I'd have to look.
Okay, and about how long would this resolution take?
I'm sorry?
About how long would, this all take with, the new MOA and all of that?
And I leave that to the Board of Education. They are spearheading this with their resolution, so we will work on their timetable.
So the Board of Education hasn't actually approved its resolution. It would have to vote next week to have those community groups. If the board decides it's not going to take up Daniel Watson's proposal, what are you prepared to do to make sure those community conversations actually happen?
I don't have an answer for that right now. I'm hoping that the school board does decide to have those conversations. We want to be invited into the schools.
How do you think this is going to impact the safety of the children? That was, the whole reason why you guys went into the schools in the first place.
The impact of the safety of the children. I'm sorry, there was.
Yeah, the impact. How is it going to impact the safety of the children?
So again, I keep going back to this. I know I'm repeating this, but the school security officers have come leaps and bounds. That armed security, they are at work at the direction of the school. They're able to be assigned where there are needs. They have a great force led by a great leader, and I'm sure the next leader will be just as qualified. And we'll work with them too. This may be a good time to bring up that we have actually worked on a grant for those school security officers, 2 grants. Well over $750,000 has been a pass-through grant to them so that we can work with them and make sure that they have the tools and training that they need.
Would you say there is a difference between how police officers are trained with KPD, the SRO officers, compared to SSO, the school security officers?
Yes, they are trained based on their needs. We are trained as law enforcement officers, and we are given our SROs are given additional training for that particular assignment. Yes.
I know this is fluid, but we're hearing from teachers already and parents saying they feel blindsided, and they often feel like they're not a part of the conversation. Can you talk to that and address them?
Again, I implore them to please participate in these meetings, have their voice heard.
Knox County Schools is having summer learning camps this summer. There's 4-week options and 6-week options. There's about 6,000 kids that are supposed to be in these schools this summer. That's just the middle and elementary level.
Okay.
What is the plan come June 13th if there isn't a new MOA? Will there be any SROs in schools?
No, but I'm confident with the number of officers that Chief Paducas has. I mean, not every school is open, and we only participate at this time in middle and high school. Some of those are middle schools, but I think with the number of officers he has, we are confident that they'll be able to be covered with armed security should they need it.
And as a follow-up question, these camps are new. They were passed by the state legislature this year.
Okay.
Previous to leaving the MOA, was there a plan to have SROs at the schools this summer for the camps?
I think we had planned for a few. I don't know. I will need to revisit that to be sure. So I don't know. But I think we may have planned for a few. Normally our SROs, as a normal course, anytime the school is closed, whether it be for an inclement weather day, an in-service day, the summer, those SROs come back to work patrol assignments or maybe investigative assignments. They come back and work under here at KPD. They are not assigned to the schools as a resource for the school to use. I think that's a pretty big distinction. I appreciate the question.
Could you clarify what you meant by that distinction? Are you saying that SROs are not specifically assigned to one school each?
They are assigned to specific schools, but they work for a KPD supervisor who is assigned as an SRO supervisor, that sergeant. That sergeant reports to a lieutenant who, as one of his responsibilities, is responsible for the SROs. That lieutenant responds to one of our patrol captains, who was one of his responsibilities. The SROs are assigned, and ultimately under the division of the patrol division and Deputy Chief Ron Green. So their field, their reporting is within the KPD chain of command, not the school chain of command. It always has been.
Any other questions? What is the staffing level now?
As for overall KPD?
Yeah.
Today we sit at 377 sworn officers. We're authorized to 416.
You mentioned that you've heard from families already. What kind of concerns are you hearing from them? Do they want officers in schools? Are they worried about what this fall looks like? What are you hearing?
And I haven't had a chance to read them. It looked like they were concerned about officers in schools, and that's why, I'm going to draft a standard response to go out. Please participate. Please participate and have your voice heard. And get the facts. When you see that, school security officers have great training, they're responsible to the schools, and we work with them on a continual basis. We work with them even grant-wise, financially, and that's a great relationship that we have. And so I think those are all important points that will come out at these meetings.
Just want to reiterate one more time. The school board has not passed a resolution to have these meetings. So I just want to give you one more opportunity. Are you going to be calling community meetings if the school board doesn't?
I can't say that at this point. I don't know. My hope is that they pass the resolution and they take the lead on this.
Anything else?
Again, let me tell you all, thank you for being here and for getting this information out. It's very important, and I really appreciate all of you all being here and getting that information out. Thank you. Paperclip.
question about SRO staffing for the summer learning camps.
Yeah.
Did you say that in an email or did you have the general question?
Basically, you're just asking if SROs were intending on being staff for the summer
Yes.
through the camps. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll get that back to you.
Cool. Thank you.
I'll clarify that. You could need anything else? I know that you would ask for. We knew this was in the works, so.
Yeah, I get you. No, I think that was it.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll get back with you on that. And if you haven't heard from me by like 2 or 3 o'clock, then just shoot me a text or an email.